YouTube has pushed a lot of reference videos to me, many of which are from Indian bloggers. To be honest, I try to free myself from Indian topics and ignore their stupid titles and ignorant views. But I always can't help it and click in to watch, and then I am shocked by the magical logic of Indians. In this video, let's talk about anti-Indian racism. Let me first talk about the background data. The most viewers of my channel come from the United States, Malaysia, India, Singapore, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, etc. I have made a lot of videos criticizing India and suffered fierce counterattacks from Indian viewers. However, most of these responses are based on emotions and lack logic, and more are direct abuse, saying that I am anti-Indian racism. This is the way Indians deal with criticism. I am not saying that all Indians are like this, but as a YouTube blogger, my intuitive feeling is like this. I have also made a lot of videos criticizing the United States and some white people in the West. I even directly pointed out that the United States, Australia, and Canada have committed genocide, and they are not qualified to stand on the moral high ground to criticize the human rights of other countries. There are also many Americans and Westerners who disagree with my views, but they will not blame me for anti-American or anti-white racism. Moreover, the like rate of my channel videos is about 95%. Excluding the Indian netizens who dislike it crazily, netizens from other countries rarely give me collective negative reviews. So, my first point is very simple. There are people in the world who don't like Indians, but there is no anti-Indian racism. People from other countries just talk about the real shortcomings of Indians, and the resistance of Indians to criticism and the emotional venting that deviates from reality further highlight the rationality of criticism. We are all adults and must be responsible for our own behavior. Since Indians have forged academic qualifications in large numbers and entered Western countries to work by deception, they must seriously reflect and correct themselves after being exposed. Otherwise, whether it is the ordinary people in the target country or other immigrant groups who are queuing up by legal means, or even the immigration agencies in Western countries, they will be particularly disgusted with the immigrant groups from India. Every country has people who immigrate through fake academic qualifications or other deceptive means, but there are too many cases of immigration fraud from India, and the proportion is too high, so it will be widely discussed. This is not anti-Indian racism, but a statement of facts. I believe that there are also unhygienic people in immigrant groups from China, the Philippines, or other countries, and some people will urinate and defecate on Canadian beaches. But no media has classified Chinese and Filipinos as synonymous with unhygienic people and labeled them as people who defecate and urinate anywhere. If your eyes can still work properly, watch more videos of Western bloggers traveling to China and India, and reflect on why these people can always shoot feces and garbage on the streets of India, but rarely shoot these in China. These feces and garbage are not brought to India by Western bloggers, right? There are also many Indian bloggers who believe that another origin of anti-Indian racism is India's long history of being colonized by the West, which has led to the condescending mentality of white people in Western countries towards Indians. The mistakes of Indians will be magnified and then labeled. In fact, to be fair, after the Industrial Revolution, white people dominated the entire world, and most countries in the world, including China, were colonized or oppressed by Western countries. But India has been independent for nearly 80 years, and you have plenty of time to build India into a clean and modern country. The British cannot bear permanent responsibility for India's backwardness, right? The British plundered a lot of wealth from India, but they also unified India and left behind a lot of infrastructure and administrative systems. India still has a lot of railways left over from the colonial era in service, right? Hong Kong and Singapore were also colonized by the British for many years, so why are they not as poor, backward, and dirty as India? Western whites are very arrogant and think that their lifestyle is more civilized than that of Indians. So they constantly instill this idea into Indians, making Indians feel inferior. When I saw this sentence, I laughed so hard that I almost couldn't breathe. Western whites did not force Chinese and Japanese to wear suits, But the national leaders of China and Japan all wore suits and ties when they were working and did not wear skirts like Modi. It is India that wants to integrate into the international community, not the international community inviting India to join. Other countries on the earth will not lose anything without India. If India loses the international community, can it continue to develop? Chinese and Japanese also like to wear Western clothes. Jeans and t-shirts are not the national costumes of the Chinese. They can become popular because they are convenient for life and work. Westerners use knives and forks, while Chinese and Japanese use chopsticks. Why haven't they been assimilated by the West? Because eating with chopsticks is clean, hygienic, and efficient. However, Indians generally eat with their hands. When eating in their own country, you can stick to this custom. When you enter Western countries, China and Japan, it is very impolite to do so. Because eating with your hands violates basic hygiene common sense. There are a lot of bad habits in the lifestyle of Indians, and these behaviors are disgusting, especially about defecation. You can keep these habits in your own country, but if you go abroad, you must correct these problems. This is not the prejudice of Western countries against India. Civilized societies all over the world cannot accept these habits of Indians. India is the fastest growing economy among the top 10 economies in the world and will soon become the third largest economy. Civilized Indians do not need to feel inferior. Those who look down on India will regret it. Since 30 years ago, India has been boasting about surpassing China, and since 20 years ago, it has been labeling itself as the next great power. After Modi came to power, he boasted that India would replace China as the next global manufacturing center. However, by 2025, India is still one of the poorest and dirtiest countries in the world. As for India's economic growth rate, it is based on a very low per capita GDP. Compared with China's peak economic growth rate of 15%, it is completely insignificant. When the Indian government included cow dung in GDP, all of India's economic figures were worthless and no one would believe it anymore. India has the lowest per capita GDP and the lowest urbanization and industrialization among the G20 countries. No one would think that India would become the next superpower. Well, India has become a superpower, so what? Do citizens of superpowers need to fake their academic qualifications and immigrate to other countries? Can citizens of superpowers urinate and defecate on the beaches of other countries? Can citizens of superpowers defraud more than $10 billion from American society every year and bankrupt countless elderly and vulnerable groups? If India is awarded the title of superpower, it can keep Indians in India. I believe 99% of people will vote to award India the title of superpower. Finally, I still ask Indians to calm down, stop cursing my channel for closing down, and think seriously about their own problems. There are 1.7 million Chinese living in Canada, no less than the number of Indians. Why no one mentions anti-Chinese racism? Why don't white Canadians come out and accuse the Chinese of shitting on Canadian beaches,